Hey, welcome back for another deck highlight video for MarvelSNAP. Today we have Mr. Negative deck. Now this has been a really common meta deck across pretty much since the game came out. So this is my version of the negative deck. It's not the super popular meta deck, which is, got Sera and Mr. Negative in it. It's more of a high roll kind of style of deck where if you can get all the combo pieces, you can have some really incredible turns on turn 5 and 6 and often surprise your opponent either with a Zola play or just a really incredible amount of power coming out of your hand all at once. So we really look at, is the negative deck still good? And not a lot has changed other than Mr. Negative dropping from 4 power to 1 power. But you do lose a key combo piece, which is the Devil Dinosaur out of this deck. So maybe with bringing Ronin in, does it get stronger? Does it get weaker? We'll find that out as we get into some games a bit later on. But first, let's get into the deck breakdown. First up, we have Sunspot. Sunspot's just a really, really strong card, and I've said this before, but I think he's probably the best one-drop in the game. Obviously, he can be heavily countered by Killmonger, but I think to bring a bit of consistency in the early game of this deck and to free up some space in your hand as well, it's really good to have some early plays. So we've got Sunspot in there as a strong turn 1 play. Next up, we have Angela. Angela just fills that spot as well for a really strong turn 2 play. You don't want to get stuck with too many cards in your hand, especially if you've got Negative and Jane Foster coming in late on. So it's good to be able to play cards out early to free up some hand space. So she's in there just as a really good body that's going to get stronger as you play more cards on that location as well. Then we have Ironheart. Ironheart's one of the really key cards in this deck. As you hit your deck with Mr. Negative's ability, it will swap over to a 0 cost and 3 power card, which will then be able to boost up a further 6 additional power to the rest of your board, providing you have cards out. So this is just a really strong card that pairs really well with Mr. Negative and the rest of the deck too. We then have Morph. And Morph's been a new addition to my deck. I think as a lot of people are noticing, the curve in a lot of decks of people playing is kind of getting a little bit bigger, and people playing more 4, 5 and 6 cost cards in their decks with high power. So this is a really good opportunity for you actually to cash in on that, and people playing these higher kind of curved decks and be able to potentially copy something in their hand, which is going to be really benefit you. It's not going to work every single time, but I think the upside from it, especially once you've negatived it, is really good to play at a 0 cost at any point in the game. Moving on, we have Mystique, and Mystique's just a staple in a negative deck. Such a great enabler for the rest of the deck. You can copy some awesome ongoing abilities like So next up we have Mystique, and Mystique is such a staple in negative decks. Not only pairs so well with the negative inverse mechanic, but also works really well to copy abilities like Iron Man or new cards like that I've included in the deck like Ronin, who have really strong ongoing abilities. Then we have Mr. Negative, the newly nerfed Mr. Negative. I still feel like he's going to be just as strong in this deck, as I really don't feel that the 4 power was the thing that was making him strong. But he's in there as the key enabler for this deck and to enable those crazy turn 5 and 6 plays that you might have. Moving on, we have Wong in the deck. So Wong's not only going to get a benefit being flipped by Mr. Negative, but also he's just a really, really strong card paired with some of the things in the deck. So we have things like White Tiger in the deck, we have Ironheart, some really good on reveal abilities that you can play on Wong that's really going to benefit the rest of the cards that you're playing out as well. Next up we have Iron Man, who is arguably one of the strongest cards in the negative deck. He will flip to being a 0 cost 5 power card, which doubles all power at that location. So just by himself he'll be a 0 cost 10 power card straight on the board. He also enables some crazy interactions and also is a great copy target for Mystique. He just allows you to make some really crazy plays late on in the game, which can completely blow your opponents away and surprise them. So definitely a key card in this deck. Now we have Ronin, and Ronin's a brand new pull for me. I only just pulled him the other day, which was perfect timing after he got the buff. And with Devil Dino kind of now going out of a lot of negative decks, I really look forward to trying him out and seeing how strong he can be. After the negative flip, he'll be a 0 cost 5 power card, which is going to get the benefit of 3 power for each of the cards in your opponent's hand. So I think you can really quickly build up power on this card and can be a really good just power push late on in the game as well. So next up we have White Tiger, and White Tiger does two things really, really well in this deck. You can play White Tiger on Wong to double down on the on-reveal ability, where you'll get 2 7-power Tigers out to the location. And if she's flipped by Mr. Negative, she becomes a 1-cost 5-power card, which makes her even better. The other great thing that White Tiger does in this deck is she'll be able to push locations where you often can't get cards over there. So something like a Sanctum Sanctorum or a Death's Domain or those kind of locations, you'll be able to get a sneaky 7 power or even more over to those locations by playing White Tiger. So great addition to the deck. Then we have Jane Foster, the Mighty Thor. She's a great card to enable the high roll style of play of this deck, as long as you have space in your hand. She'll be able to draw into all of your 0 cost cards. Now, not every Mr. Negative deck actually plays Jane Foster, but if you're really going for that high roll style of play where you can make some crazy things happen on turn 6, she can be an incredible follow-up. She's going to be situational. Sometimes you'll play Mr. Negative and then you'll draw into her soon after, which makes her completely unplayable. But if you've got her in your hand before you have Mr. Negative, she's a really good option to draw into all of those cards and enable that high roll style of play. The last card we have on our list is Arnim Zola, and not only is Zola a great target for Mr. Negative's invert effect, where he becomes a 0 cost 6 power card, but he'll also destroy a card at a particular location where he's played, and play that card again at 2 other locations. This is a great way to get some sneaky power spread across the board on the final turn. It can also really do some crazy things where your opponent's completely not expecting it, and it's really hard to account for a Zola play, especially late in the game on as well. So he's a great addition to the Negative deck, and something that can provide that surprise factor on those final turns too. That wraps up our deck breakdown. Let's get into some games and see how we go. Okay, so first up we have Ronan. Not the one in our deck, but our opponent straight off the bat. And we're flopping straight into... we're moving straight into having Asgard as the first location. So we do have Sunspot in our hand, which is a great draw, and Angela, so we're going to have a pretty strong turn. We're going to have a pretty strong turn 2 and 3. I think I hold here and I'll play Angela 2 and Sunspot on 3. We don't really have a way to ramp into anything more quickly, and the other cards we're ideally looking to hold for a negative draw should we get it. So we then go into Murder World, which is fine. We can just wait out until turn 3 to play there. That doesn't really affect us too much. They play Mr. Sinister, so potentially a Patriot or some similar style of deck. I'm not too sure. So I will play Sunspot down and buff up Angela a little bit, while also getting a little bit of extra energy onto Sunspot. Okay, so we've got a Cosmo in left lane. Just have to be aware of that with things like Ironheart and White Tiger. So we don't have negative on 4, which is fine. We might play Wong in the middle, and we might have to go down a bit of a different path here, potentially looking to win. Okay, so they cap out their left location to draw the cards. That's absolutely fine. And then we do get the retreat as soon as they see the Wong. So sometimes Wong does that to players. We'll move on to the next one. Okay, so in this one we've got Rofster, and first location is Lemuria. We'll move on here, and we do have negative in hand. So if we can get Jane Foster, this can be a really good showcase of what this deck might be able to do. Even still though, having Mr. Negative in hand for turn 4 is really strong. Okay, so we go into Starlight Citadel, which at the moment doesn't have a massive effect. We also just drew into Jane Foster, which is absolutely huge. So first thing, we'll get Angela down on the board and we'll move on. Now I guess just with Mr. Negative's new power cost, I think we just have to be a little bit more wary of where we play him. We did get draw into Isle of Silence, which is definitely not the best for us, but we just have to be aware and play around it for sure. We also drew into Iron Man, which isn't ideal, but not too bad either. So let's drop Mr. Negative on the Angela. I think that's fine. And they do have a Wong on Isle of Silence, which is interesting. Okay, so their ongoing effects get cancelled out of the middle as Starlight Citadel swaps out. So this turn, I think we still Jane Foster. I think we Jane Foster here, and then we see what we draw into, and we just kind of make our best play there. Hopefully we can. I think we'll definitely draw into a few different things as we fill out the rest of our hand. So we get Ironheart and Arnhem Zola. So we don't get the Mystique, unfortunately, which is a bit of a bummer. But we do have some strong plays we can make here. So we have Morph. We can play Morph into... We might try and play into Lemuria. So just have a look at what we're doing here. We might play Morph. Do we want to put Iron Man here and here? Because we can do that. I think that's what we do. So we'll go Morph, Ironheart, Iron Man, and Zola. I think this is probably going to be one of our stronger plays of what we can do. So let's end turn there. We won't snap them. A few different options of what we could have done there, but I think this is probably one of the stronger plays we could have made. Morph is kind of breaking at the moment. And we do draw into the Iron Man. We did get Ironheart, which is always good. And then the Zola takes out the Iron Man and adds it to the two side locations. So we ended up having double Iron Man in the right location. Pretty overkill, but shows how the deck can work. And we do end up taking out the 3 location win. So great showcase of what the deck potentially can do when you draw quite well. So next up we have Baza Makaza. And straight into Luke's Bar. So we do have a few ways to get into Luke's Bar. We'll see how that goes as we kind of play this game through. We do have negative in hand, which is always good. You love to see it. Sunspot. Let's get Sunspot down. We'll start getting some energy onto him. So we can get into Luke's Bar through Zola or White Tiger later on. We did also draw into Jane Foster, which is just awesome. Just a perfect draw there. Okay, so we'll miss the negative here. We'll Jane Foster next turn, pretty sure. That's a super cool Warpath effect too. Okay, so we actually end up getting into Luke's Bar regardless, which is good. We'll play out Jane Foster here into Stark Tower. May as well give her the buff. I think he must be playing some sort of ongoing deck, I would assume. Maybe Spectrum on the last turn. So we do draw into the 2 cards. None of them being Zola or or a white tiger, so we will have to go for the... Oh no, we already have Zola in hand. Completely forgot about that. So what we can do is... I like this play. Probably wanting to Mystique Iron Man here, I think. So many different ways you can go with this deck. You can also just Zola and then play out the other cards. That's also an option. And we just add Jane Foster over to the other locations. Is that going to be enough though? Is a 10 power Jane Foster going to be enough? 16. We can also get away from his Iron Man doing this. So maybe this is just the play. Okay. Let's go with this. Okay, so it ended up working out for us, the Arnhem Zola play, where we can add it into the two locations. We don't draw into any more zero cost cards, we've got them all out and in our hand. And morph, as long as it doesn't go into like a destroyer or something crazy. Which is a great roll for us, and then Mystique just follows up with 3 power, so yeah, good win there. Let's move on to the next one. So we have Black Star and Monster Island as the first location. Nothing to play on turn 1, so we'll just skip and move on. I wonder if they may be if they're a Patriot fan with the Misty Knight avatar. We'll see. We'll wait and see. We also do have negative on turn 4, which is great. We can draw into Jane Foster. Obviously that's going to be a good time. And we do draw into Jane Foster, which is awesome. And then we have Limbo. So Limbo actually works out in our favor. And I actually don't have magic at the moment. I might actually just play out the Morph as is to free up some hand space, especially for Jane Foster. And I don't have magic in my collection yet, so I'd love to include her in this deck, but getting Limbo as a location could maybe showcase a bit more of what we could potentially do with this deck for sure. The Morph in hand, and it goes into a Storm, so interesting play there. We do have ways to get into that location later on as well. I might start playing into Limbo here. And then obviously we'll play negative this turn, and then we'll go into Jane Foster next turn. Okay, so they discard 2 cards, and Blade gets played out from the Lockjaw. So we're not too worried about is there another play we could make here? He has 3 cards in his hand, which isn't amazing. So I think to free up hand space, just to make sure that we don't overdraw, I'll drop Ronan mid, and we can go from there. So they redrop the Lady Sif, who then discards Dr. Doom, which triggers into White Tiger. So pretty strong play for them, for sure. I'm assuming they have a Hela here. And we do get the Mystique and Inverse Iron Man, which is super strong for us. So we just need to think about how we want to play this. I might play Wong. And do we want to do our Iron Man shenanigans this turn or next? I'm thinking maybe next. where next turn can look like a white tiger mid into Iron Man and Mystique. It's not a bad play. We also do lose left lane. But are we okay with that? I think we're okay with that. Otherwise we can do some sort of Zola play now. We could do Zola on... We can do this to try and win all three. Let's try the Zola play. Okay, so Ghost Rider resummons Doctor Doom, caps out their locations. Completely forgot that Zola actually doesn't destroy that. So we just played a 0 cost 6 power card, which is always a good time. So I think regardless we do win, even with a massive misplay at the end there on turn 6. You can see the power of the deck if you do draw really well. It's almost hard to do things wrong. Like that's a really good showcase because I did a huge misplay and it still kind of works out in my favor at the end. So just shows that the deck is really strong at the moment. So for this one we have Ronin again, and we start off with the Raft. So really not a great location for us. We're probably not going to be the fastest to fill the Raft for sure. So we'll skip turn 1 and turn 2, and then Jotunheim. Really not ideal either, but it seems like he's had a bit of a slow draw as well. And the Icebox does hit White Tiger, so we'll see how impactful that might be a bit later on. He plays Electro. Potentially some kind of... It's obviously ramping, but potentially some kind of destroyer deck. I'm not actually too sure. So we could morph here, or I can Wong. I think I want to Wong. And maybe we draw Angela ahead of next turn. Okay, that's not going to matter. Now is Sandman. Just 6 cards in hand. I think this is a pretty strong play. We can hope for Mystique. If not, we've got the White Tiger play. So he plays Jubilee. And Jubilee draws into Nightcrawler. So he is going to be able to move that. But it is a pretty good play for us. So we have a few options here. We've got Hit and Hope for the Zola, which doesn't feel great. We've got Angela into Ironheart, which is a decent play. We'll add probably around, we'll add around 14 power to the board, or 15 power to the board, which is pretty good. We can also do White Tiger, which adds 16 power to the board. No, 15 power to the board as well. I think that's probably going to be the play. Locks down here, hopefully wins us here. We play here, so I think White Tiger is going to be our best bet. Yeah, and he ends up retreating, so we did have some strong plays on that last turn, and again, didn't even come close to getting negative, didn't get negative at all, but the deck still does some good things, even outside of the negative combo. Okay, so this time we have Barbosa. And we do draw a Sunspot on turn 1, no Mr. Negative in hand, no Jane Foster, but we'll play into Los Diabolos base there, and we'll see which location it might destroy. So just with the turns, Lost Diablo Space will go off, so it could destroy X Mansion here before X Mansion puts a card, plays a card for each of us. So he plays Shocker. I'm going to lightly assume that it could be some sort of Patriot deck. We do have the Ironheart play here, but it might be something we want to do a bit later on. I think Morph into negative seems fine. So we'll play this here. So he does drop the Patriot. And we do go into the Misty Knight. Which changes so we don't actually get the double trigger. So not a great pull for us for sure. And we definitely don't want to be dropping Mr. Negative here. Because we don't want to cancel out the effect of us inverting our deck. We do have some good, really good on reveal effects that we can use for Kamar-Taj. And he pulls out Squirrel Girl, so double triggers Squirrel Girl, so interesting. Does flood his board with lots of token minions for sure. I think White Tiger is going to be the play here. Especially, let me think about this. Maybe this is the play. But we're probably going to want to win this location because he has no tokens here yet. I think the other locations are going to be really, really tough to win. I think this is one of our locations. Let's go with this play. I don't know if it's correct, but hopefully we'll be able to get some good power on the board here. So I think, so definitely Iron Man Mystique is the play. Might do Iron Man Mystique. It's probably going to be our strongest play that we can make in this order. We're going to need additional help over here is the thing. So let's say he onslaughts here. No, I think we're okay. I think we're okay. Let's play this one out. We'll see how I go. So assuming that's going to be an onslaught.
I am Iron Man. I am.
It's just to 32. To 30, sorry. Okay, so we did pick the onslaught, but we do win out with the kind of double Iron Man buff play. That's a wrap on my version of the Mr. Negative deck. It's more of a high roll style where you kind of really need key combo pieces for it to really succeed and shine. But there are alternate ways to win games with on reveal effects through Wong and White Tiger and those kind of characters as well. So you can get some sneaky wins that way too. It's definitely, I wouldn't say it's not as consistent as the Sera deck that's been going around, probably top of the meta at the moment, but it's something that you can play and you can experiment with if you don't have Sera, like me, unfortunately. So thanks again so much for stopping by and watching the video. Really appreciate it. If you have any questions or if you'd like to share your version of the negative deck or even any other questions or decks you'd like to share, feel free to drop them in the comments. If you want me to try out any decks for you and play them in a new video, I'd be more than happy to. Feel free to share some deck lists and I'll try them out as we go. Thanks so much for watching. Really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, feel free to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. It would be great to have you on board as we release more and more MarvelSNAP content. Until the next one, see you then.